This data represents the disparity in combat losses over 2 days in June 1944. The Imperial Japanese Navy lost approximately 480 aircraft. The United States Navy lost 123. These numbers were recorded across the Philippine Sea during the Battle of the Philippine Sea. The United States military identified the Marianas, Saipan, Guam, and Tinian as a non-negotiable staging ground for the next phase of the war. Control of these islands provided the exact radius required for the new B-29 bombers to launch strikes against the Japanese home islands. To prevent this American advance, the Imperial Japanese Navy launched Operation AGO, an all-or-nothing counter-strategy. The plan was built on the doctrine of Kantai Kessen, the belief that a single decisive naval engagement could win the war. Analyzing this 4-to-1 kill ratio reveals systemic differences in how each navy managed aerospace engineering, fleet defense systems, and human capital. Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa commanded the first mobile fleet, consolidating 9 carriers and 440 aircraft for the operation. For the first time, Japan concentrated its aircraft carriers into a single unified striking force. Opposing them was Task Force 58, led by Admiral Raymond Spruance and Vice Admiral Mark Mitzer. The American fleet centered on 15 carriers, including the new 27,000-ton Essex class, and fielded over 900 aircraft. The immediate catalyst was the invasion of Saipan on June 15th, where 50,000 American Marines and soldiers landed, forcing an immediate Japanese response. This landing forced the Japanese fleet into a premature engagement, bringing their specific engineering choices into direct conflict with a superior American technological network. The primary Japanese fighter aircraft involved in this battle was the Mitsubishi A6M Zero in 1937. Inter-service development friction meant Japanese designers had to work with engines that provided significantly less horsepower than those available to the West. To compensate for this power deficit, engineers were mandated to reduce the aircraft's weight to the absolute minimum to maintain its range and maneuverability. To meet weight targets, designers utilized a top-secret alloy known as T7178 aluminum. It was incredibly light and rigid, but extremely brittle. This allowed for a massive wing surface area with exceptionally low wing loading. This resulted in a stall speed below 60 knots, which allowed the Zero to turn tighter than any Allied fighter in a low-speed dogfight. However, this lightweight structure had a catastrophic flaw. At airspeeds above 300 miles per hour, the wings became flexible and shuddered under aerodynamic stress. This wing flex mechanically neutralized the Zero's aileron servo tabs, causing its roll effectiveness to drop to near zero precisely when needing high-speed evasion. Weight reduction stripped away pilot protection, completely omitting heavy armor. Plating. It also lacked self-sealing fuel tanks, making it highly combustible when hit. The Zero was an achievement in localized engineering for the dogfights of 1940. But it was a structurally fragile, unsurvivable trap in the high-speed combat of 1944. The American Grumman F-6F Hellcat prioritized heavy combat durability, speed, and massive firepower over the ability to turn in tight circles. The United States Navy also transitioned its fleet defense away from visual spotting to centralized shipboard radar tracking. Radar data mathematically vectored Hellcats directly into incoming Japanese strikes. Any aircraft bypassing fighters faced proximity fusee shells using radio waves to detonate automatically near targets, projecting lethal shrapnel. While the U.S. focused on an integrated network, Japan attempted to improve survivability natively, building the flagship Taiho with an armor-plated flight deck to absorb bomb hits. On June 19th, Admiral Ozawa launched 440 aircraft in 4 successive waves directly into the American technological buzzsaw. By building an integrated data and defense network, the U.S. Navy rendered the Zero's maneuverability irrelevant. Beyond the hardware, the outcome depended on the specific capabilities of human operators in the cockpit. The American personnel model was a sustainable, rotational pipeline. Pulling veterans off the front lines to train recruits ensured high combat competence. Conversely, Japan's system left them with no reserve of skilled instructors. Severe pilot attrition during the battles of Midway, the Coral Sea, and the Solomons created an unrecoverable deficit in their veteran ranks. To fill their carrier decks, for Operation Igo, the Japanese command pulled remaining flight instructors out of training schools, sending them into battle alongside incompletely trained novices. The ultimate collapse occurred because the Japanese Navy exhausted the experienced veterans who possessed the skill required to keep the fragile Zero alive. Returning to June 19th's data, we can map the 480 Japanese aircraft lost directly to these engineering and personnel variables. Crucially, the majority of the 123 American aircraft lost were not shot down, but crashed due to fuel exhaustion returning in the dark. The results were one-sided, unarmored, fuel-laden planes flown by novices ignited instantly under the guns of veteran American pilots. The statistical slaughter resulted in the permanent elimination of the Imperial Japanese Navy's carrier aviation capability. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot secured the islands for the B-29s, proving that modern wars of attrition are won by resilient engineering and sustainable human capital.